Chapter 1. The Desert's Secret. A world of dust and ruin. The planet Eridan 6 was a forgotten corner of the galaxy, a barren, wind-swept world where the sands whispered of lost civilizations. Its vast dunes stretched endlessly beneath a sun that seemed locked in perpetual judgment, its rays mercilessly baking the surface. Once, this world had thrived. Great cities had risen amidst fertile plains, their spires piercing the skies, but millennia of decay had reduced them to nothing more than legends buried beneath the sands. For Dr. Elias Rowe, the allure of Eridan 6 was irresistible. The chance to uncover remnants of the Zarathian Empire, a mysterious and long-extinct alien race, had drawn him to this desolate planet like a moth to flame. Known for their advanced technology and enigmatic biology, the Zarathians were the subject of countless theories but little concrete evidence. Few artifacts had ever been recovered, and no remains had ever been found. That was why Elias was here, standing in the shadow of his worn exploration vessel, the Sandspire, staring at the endless dunes. The Zarathians had vanished tens of thousands of years ago, their civilization swallowed by time, but Elias believed the sands of Eridan 6 held their secrets. All systems operational, Dr. Rowe, chirped a mechanical voice from behind him. His AI assistant, Kim, 7, floated into view, its spherical frame adorned with sensors and tools. Local atmospheric conditions remained stable. Shall we begin? Elias adjusted his sun visor, his rugged features etched with determination. Let's get to work. First signs of the past. Their search began at dawn, when the heat was tolerable, and the light cast long shadows across the dunes. Elias and Kim, 7, trudged across the sand, guided by a combination of satellite data and ancient star charts. The Zarathians were said to have aligned their cities with specific constellations, and Elias had spent years deciphering their patterns. Energy readings ahead, Kim, 7, announced after hours of walking. Faint, but consistent. Likely residual emissions from ancient technology. Elias's pulse quickened. Residual energy was a promising sign, one that could lead them to intact structures or artifacts. As they crested a dune, the ground below leveled out, revealing a stretch of hardened, glass-like material. Zarathian paving, Elias murmured, kneeling to examine the surface. The substance shimmered faintly in the sunlight, its texture smooth yet organic. He brushed away the sand, revealing intricate patterns etched into the glass, a language no one had yet deciphered. Kim, 7, hovered nearby, scanning the markings. This is consistent with previous discoveries on other worlds. The geometric complexity suggests a symbolic or mathematical purpose. Elias nodded, his mind racing. We're close. A hidden entrance. The paving led them to the base of a massive dune, where a jagged outcrop of obsidian-like stone jutted from the sand. Elias approached cautiously, his boots crunching on the glassy surface. The stone bore the same intricate patterns as the paving, but there was something different about it, something alive. Kim, 7, emitted a high-pitched chirp, detecting an anomalous energy signature within the structure. It appears to be dormant. Elias traced his fingers along the surface, feeling a faint vibration beneath his touch. Dormant, but not dead. He grabbed his excavation tools and began clearing the sand around the stone, revealing a seam that outlined a rectangular panel. Help me with this, Elias said, gesturing to Kim, 7. The AI extended a mechanical arm, its laser cutter slicing through the seam. With a hiss, the panel shifted, revealing a dark passageway descending into the earth. Elias peered inside, his heart pounding. Looks like we found our way in. The burial chamber. The air inside the passageway was cool and dry, a stark contrast to the blistering heat above. Elias activated his headlamp, the beam cutting through the darkness to reveal walls covered in glowing filaments. The architecture was unlike anything he'd ever seen, smooth, flowing, and almost organic, as if the structure had been grown rather than built. Kim, 7, floated beside him, its sensors whirring. This material is biotechnological in nature. It appears to respond to environmental stimuli. Zarathian technology, Elias said, awe in his voice. They were centuries ahead of us. The passageway widened into a massive chamber, its ceiling arched like the ribs of a great beast. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, and atop it lay a figure shrouded in shimmering fabric. Elias's breath caught in his throat. "It's a body," he whispered. "A life frozen in time." The figure on the pedestal was humanoid but unmistakably alien. Her skin, visible beneath the translucent fabric, was a pale, silvery hue that seemed to refract the light. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, and her hair, if it could be called that, floated around her head like strands of liquid crystal. Elias approached cautiously, his eyes wide with wonder. "This is impossible. Zarathian remains have never been found." Kim, 7, scanned the figure. Life signs, minimal but present. Cellular activity is suspended. Subject appears to be in a state of stasis. Elias's mind raced. Could this be the key to understanding the Zarathians? An intact body, preserved for millennia? But why was she here, buried beneath the sands? "She's not dead," Elias said, his voice trembling. "She's sleeping." The decision. Kim, 7, projected a holographic display, detailing the stasis field surrounding the figure. "The field is degrading. Without intervention, her condition will deteriorate." Elias hesitated. Reviving her could provide invaluable knowledge about the Zarathians, but it was a risk. He had no idea what kind of biological or technological consequences might arise from interfering with the stasis. "She's been here for thousands of years," he said, more to himself than to Kim, 7. "What if we wake her and she's hostile? Or worse, what if we fail and she dies?" Kim 7's voice was steady. "The choice is yours, Dr. Rowe, but time is of the essence." Elias stared at the figure, his mind a whirlwind of doubt and determination. This was why he had come to Eridan 6 to uncover the past, to bring it back to life. And now, the past was staring back at him, waiting. "All right," he said finally, his voice firm. "Let's do it." Awakening. Elias worked methodically, connecting a portable power supply to the stasis field's control matrix. The interface was unlike anything he'd ever seen, its controls responding to his thoughts as much as his touch. With Kim 7's guidance, he began the delicate process of deactivating the field. The room hummed with energy as the field dissolved, and the air grew heavy with an electric charge. The figure's chest rose slightly, her first breath in millennia echoing through the chamber. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered like liquid metal. Elias stepped back, his heart hammering. "She's awake." The Zarathian woman sat up slowly, her movements graceful despite the weight of centuries. She looked at Elias, her gaze piercing yet curious. When she spoke, her voice was melodic, resonating with an otherworldly tone. "Who are you?" she asked in a language Elias couldn't understand, yet somehow comprehended. "I'm Elias," he said, his voice trembling. "I brought you back?" The woman's expression softened, and for a moment, the weight of the galaxy seemed to lift. She placed a hand on his, her touch warm despite her alien nature. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "You have awakened more than you know." As the chamber trembled faintly, Elias realized her words held a deeper meaning. The past wasn't just coming back to life, it was bringing its secrets with it. Chapter 2. The Echoes of the Past. The Stranger's Awakening. The air in the ancient chamber hung heavy with anticipation as the Zarathian woman slowly rose from the pedestal, her luminous silver eyes scanning her surroundings. Her presence seemed to make the room itself come alive, the glowing filaments on the walls pulsing in rhythm with her breathing. Elias stood frozen, his mind racing. He had spent years chasing the mysteries of the Zarathians, and now, one of them stood before him. Yet, this wasn't just a discovery, it was an encounter with the unknown. "Can you understand me?" Elias asked cautiously, his voice echoing in the chamber. The woman tilted her head, her expression curious. When she spoke, her melodic voice resonated in a language Elias couldn't recognize, yet he felt its meaning ripple through his mind. "I hear you, stranger. You are not of this world." Elias exhaled, his chest tight with relief. Somehow, their communication transcended the barriers of language. "I'm human. My name is Elias. I found you buried here." The woman's gaze softened, and she stepped closer, her movements deliberate and graceful. "I am Althera," she said, her voice laced with both strength and vulnerability. "You have awakened me from the eternal sleep." Elias nodded, unsure of what to say. "You were dying. Your stasis field was failing." Althera's expression darkened, and she looked toward the chamber's entrance. If the stasis failed, then the seal must have weakened. The sands above us are no longer a sufficient barrier. Barrier against what? Elias asked, a chill creeping into his voice. Althera met his gaze, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "Against the enemy. Against those who destroyed my people." Memories of a fallen empire. As the hours passed, Elias pieced together fragments of Althera's story. The Zarathian Empire had once spanned countless worlds, a civilization built on advanced biotechnology and a deep understanding of the universe's energy fields. They were creators, explorers, and guardians of knowledge. But their prosperity had made them targets. A powerful, parasitic force known as the Vorathans had descended upon their worlds, seeking to consume their technology and enslave their people. The Zarathians had fought valiantly, but were overwhelmed by the Vorathans' sheer brutality. "We were betrayed from within," Althera said, her voice heavy with grief. "A faction among us sought to control the Vorathans, to bend them to our will. They underestimated the darkness they unleashed." Elias listened intently, his heart aching for the tragedy she described. "And you? How did you survive?" Althera hesitated, her gaze distant. "I was chosen. My stasis was meant to preserve a fragment of our people's essence, a sliver of hope that we might rise again. But I was not meant to awaken unless the enemy had been destroyed." Elias frowned. "Then why now? Why did the stasis fail?" Althera looked at him, her expression grave. "Because they are still out there, and they have found this world." Signs of the enemy. The warning came sooner than either of them expected. As Elias and Althera prepared to leave the chamber, Kim, 7 emitted a sharp alarm. "Unidentified life forms detected on the surface," the AI announced, its sensors whirring. "Multiple hostiles converging on our location." Elias's stomach tightened. "How many?" 27, Kim, 7 replied. "Their biological signatures are anomalous." Althera's expression hardened. "Vorathans. They've come to claim what remains of my people." Elias grabbed his multi-tool and a plasma cutter, his heart pounding. "What are we dealing with? Soldiers? Machines?" "Neither," Althera said, her voice steady. "The Vorathans are a plague of flesh and steel, merging the worst aspects of both. They consume, adapt, and grow stronger with each victory." Elias cursed under his breath. "Great. And how do we fight them?" Althera stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly as energy coalesced around her fingertips. "With the power of the Zarathians." A desperate defense. The chamber's entrance erupted in a shower of sparks as the first Vorathans breached the perimeter. They were grotesque amalgamations of organic and mechanical components, their twisted forms bristling with sharp appendages and glowing red eyes. Elias fired his plasma cutter, the searing beam slicing through one of the creatures. It screeched, collapsing in a heap of writhing metal and flesh. Althera stood beside him, her hands glowing brighter as she unleashed waves of energy that disintegrated the Vorathans on contact. Her power was breathtaking, a reminder of the advanced technology her people had wielded. But the Vorathans were relentless, pouring into the chamber in greater numbers. Elias and Althera retreated deeper into the structure, the walls around them glowing with the ship-like architecture of the Zarathians. "We can't hold them off forever," Elias shouted, his voice echoing in the narrow corridor. Althera nodded, her expression fierce. "There is a weapon deeper within the chamber. It was meant to destroy the Vorathans should they breach this place. We must reach it." The weapon of light. The path to the weapon was treacherous, the corridor narrowing as Vorathans closed in from all sides. Elias fought valiantly, his plasma cutter running dangerously low on power. Althera's energy attacks were devastating, but he could see the strain on her face with every pulse of light she unleashed. Finally, they reached the heart of the structure, a vast circular room bathed in golden light. At its center stood a crystalline sphere, suspended in midair by beams of energy. The sphere pulsed with an ancient power, its light driving back the Vorathans who dared to enter. "This is the luminal core," Althera said, her voice reverent. It is the last defense of my people, but its power must be activated manually. Elias stepped forward, his hands trembling. What do you need me to do? Althera placed a hand on his chest, her touch warm despite the chaos around them. Your life force is different from ours. The core will respond to you in ways it cannot to me. Together, we can awaken it. Elias nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. Let's finish this. Awakening the core. As Elias placed his hands on the luminal core, a surge of energy coursed through his body. He gasped, his vision filling with blinding light as the core's power merged with his own. Beside him, Althera channeled her energy into the sphere, their combined efforts igniting the core. A brilliant wave of light erupted from the core, washing over the chamber and spreading out across the sands above. The Vorathans screeched as the light consumed them, their forms dissolving into nothingness. When the light faded, the chamber fell silent. Elias collapsed to his knees, exhausted but alive. Althera knelt beside him, her silver eyes filled with gratitude. You saved me, she said softly, and you saved what remains of my people's legacy. Elias managed a weak smile. Guess that makes us even. A new alliance. With the Vorathans destroyed and the core stabilized, Elias and Althera emerged from the chamber into the dawnlit desert. The sands that had once buried the Zorathian ruins now shimmered with the light of the core, a beacon of hope for the future. Elias turned to Althera. What happens now? Althera looked toward the horizon, her expression resolute. Now, we rebuild. The Vorathans will return, but together, we can prepare for them. My people's knowledge and your strength, there is hope yet. Elias extended his hand, a gesture of partnership. Then let's make sure they don't get another chance. Althera took his hand, her touch firm yet gentle. Together, as the sun rose over the dunes, the two of them stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 3. Rebuilding Hope. A shimmering dawn. The desert air was cool, carrying the faint hum of energy as the luminal core pulsed in the distance. Its golden light spread across the sands, illuminating what had once been hidden. The ruins of the Zorathian Empire, long buried beneath the shifting dunes, were now visible, a sprawling city of biotechnological marvels, their structures glowing faintly as they reawakened. Elias and Althera stood at the edge of the ruins, gazing at the remnants of her people's legacy. The devastation of the Vorathan invasion was evident, crumbling spires, shattered bridges, and entire sections of the city consumed by decay. Yet, there was beauty in its resilience. The core's light had begun to restore parts of the ruins, and for the first time in millennia, hope flickered in Althera's eyes. This place. Elias began, his voice tinged with awe. It's more than I ever imagined. Your people built wonders. Althera's gaze remained fixed on the city. It was once the heart of our empire, a beacon of progress and unity. Now it is but a shadow of its former self. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding. It's not lost yet. We brought the core back to life. That's a start. She nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the core. But the Vorathans will return. The core's activation has sent a signal across the stars. If we are to stand against them, we must rebuild. Reawakening the city. Over the next few days, Elias and Althera worked tirelessly to restore the city. The luminal core acted as a central power source, its energy revitalizing the ancient biotechnological systems that had lain dormant. Structures began to repair themselves, their organic components growing and reshaping as if alive. Elias marveled at the technology. It's like the city's healing itself. Althera smiled faintly. It is. Our architecture was designed to regenerate, to adapt. It was one of the many gifts of our people's bond with the universe's energy fields. Kim, 7, Elias's AI companion, floated nearby, scanning the structures. The restoration process is remarkable. However, many systems remain damaged beyond repair. Althera sighed, her shoulders heavy with the weight of responsibility. We will need more than the core's energy. The Vorathans devastated our technology during the war. Entire libraries of knowledge were lost. Elias frowned, an idea forming in his mind. If your people's knowledge was lost, could it be stored somewhere else? A backup, maybe? Althera's eyes widened. There is one possibility. Before the final battle, our scholars transferred much of our knowledge to a secure Volta sanctuary known as the Cradle of Light. Where is it? Elias asked. Althera hesitated. Far from here, hidden on a world shrouded in perpetual storms. It was designed to be inaccessible, even to our own people. Reaching it will be dangerous. Elias smirked. Dangerous is starting to feel like my new normal. The journey to the cradle. The journey to the Cradle of Light required the use of an ancient Zarathian transport buried beneath the city. The ship, sleek and organic in design, came to life as the luminal core's energy coursed through its systems. Its interior glowed with soft light, and its controls responded to Althera's touch as though it were an extension of her will. Elias marveled at the ship's seamless integration of technology and biology. This makes every human ship I've seen look like a pile of junk. Althera smiled, her first genuine smile since her awakening. It was built to carry the essence of our people across the stars. Now it carries the last hope of our civilization. As they ascended into the atmosphere, Kim, 7, calculated the course to the cradle. The journey would take them to the edge of the Ebon Nebula, a region of space notorious for its storms and gravitational anomalies. Why hide the cradle there? Elias asked, studying the star maps. To protect it, Althera replied. The Vorathans would never venture into the nebula. Its storms are lethal, even to them. Elias nodded, his jaw set. Let's hope we're luckier. The Ebon Nebula. Entering the Ebon Nebula was like stepping into a living storm. Lightning crackled across the ship's hull, and the gravitational shifts made navigation treacherous. Althera piloted with practiced precision, her connection to the ship allowing her to anticipate the nebula's chaotic patterns. Elias held on tightly, his heart pounding as the ship dodged plasma bursts and gravitational eddies. This is insane. How did your people survive this? We trusted in our technology, Althera said calmly, and in each other. As they neared the center of the nebula, the storms began to subside, revealing a massive, glowing structure suspended in the void. The Cradle of Light was a marvel of Zarathian engineering, an enormous, spherical sanctuary surrounded by rotating rings of energy. We're here, Althera said, her voice tinged with awe. The vault's secrets. Landing inside the cradle, Elias and Althera stepped into a vast chamber filled with crystalline pillars. Each pillar hummed with stored knowledge, the collective history of the Zarathian Empire encoded within. Althera approached the central pillar, placing her hands on its surface. The chamber filled with light as the knowledge flowed into her mind, reconnecting her with the legacy of her people. This is everything we lost, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The schematics for our defenses, the history of our culture, the secrets of the luminal core. Elias watched her, a mixture of admiration and sadness in his eyes. This is what we need to stop the Vorathans. Althera nodded, her expression resolute. But it is also more than that. It is a chance to rebuild. The warning. As they prepared to leave the cradle, an alarm echoed through the chamber. Kim, 7, floated closer, its voice sharp. Incoming vessels detected. Vorathan signatures. Elias's blood ran cold. How did they find us? Althera's eyes narrowed. The core's activation must have drawn their attention. They will not let us escape easily. The Vorathan ships descended on the cradle, their twisted forms bristling with weapons. Althera and Elias rushed back to the transport, the ship powering up as Vorathan forces breached the sanctuary. The battle for the cradle. The transport's weapon systems activated, firing beams of concentrated energy that tore through the Vorathan ships. Althera piloted with precision, her connection to the ship giving them a crucial advantage. Elias manned the auxiliary weapons, his aim steady despite the chaos. We can't hold them off forever. We don't need to, Althera said. The cradle's self-defense systems are activating. As she spoke, the sanctuary's rings of energy flared, unleashing a massive wave of light that disintegrated the Vorathan ships. The transport escaped the cradle just as the wave expanded, consuming the remaining enemy vessels. A new resolve. Back on Eridan 6, the knowledge from the cradle began transforming the ruins into a thriving stronghold. Althera used the schematics to rebuild defenses, while Elias worked to adapt Zarathian technology for human use. The bond between them deepened as they fought side by side, united by a shared purpose. Though the Vorathans remained a looming threat, they now had the tools to fight back. As the desert winds swept across the sands, Elias stood beside Althera, gazing at the restored city. "We've got a lot of work to do." Althera placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression filled with determination. "And we will do it. Together." As the sun set over the horizon, the last remnants of the Zarathian Empire began to stir, ready to rise again. Chapter 4. Rising from the Sands. The final preparations. The restored Zarathian city, now bathed in the golden glow of the luminal core, stood as a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. The knowledge retrieved from the Cradle of Light had transformed the ruins into a fortified stronghold, with defenses capable of rivaling any galactic power. Towers hummed with biotechnological energy, and the air shimmered with protective fields. Elias and Althera worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Vorathans. Together, they had assembled a fleet of Zarathian ships, their designs blending organic elegance with raw firepower. The people of Eridan 6 explorers, scavengers, and settlers who had once been drawn to the planet's mysteries had begun to rally around the city, offering their skills and resources. "This is more than I ever imagined," Elias said, standing on a balcony overlooking the bustling city. Below, teams of humans and alien allies worked side by side, their efforts driven by a shared determination to survive. Althera joined him, her silver eyes scanning the horizon. "It is a start, but we face an enemy that adapts to every challenge. If we are to succeed, we must strike first." Elias frowned. "You want to take the fight to them?" Althera nodded. "The Vorathans thrive on fear. They consume worlds because no one dares to resist them. If we show them that we are not afraid, that we are willing to fight, it will disrupt their unity." Elias crossed his arms, his gaze thoughtful. "It's a risk, but you're right, we can't wait for them to come to us." A call to arms. The message went out across the galaxy, a signal amplified by the luminal core. It was a call to all those who had suffered under the Vorathans' tyranny, to anyone willing to stand and fight. Ships began to arrive, ragtag fleets of freighters, fighters, and scavenged warships, their crews united by desperation and defiance. Elias was stunned by the response. "They're answering," he said to Althera as they watched the ships land in the city. "I didn't think this many would come." Althera's expression was serene, but her voice carried a quiet intensity. "The Vorathans have left scars across the galaxy. For many, this is their chance to fight back." Among the arrivals was a grizzled captain named Jorithvek, a former pirate who had lost his crew to the Vorathans. He approached Elias with a grim smile. "Heard you're putting together a resistance. Figured I'd join the fun." Elias shook his hand. "Glad to have you. The more, the better." Vec chuckled. "Let's hope you've got a plan, kid. Those things don't go down easy." Elias glanced at Althera, who stood nearby, her presence commanding. "We do. And with her help, we might just pull it off." The battle begins. The Vorathans arrived sooner than expected, their fleet darkening the skies as they descended on Eridan 6. The ground trembled beneath the weight of their war machines, and the air filled with the shriek of their hybrid fighters. Elias stood on the city's central command tower, his heart pounding as the first wave of Vorathan ships engaged the Zarathian defenses. Althera's voice echoed over the comms, calm and steady. "Hold the line. The core's energy shields will protect us as long as they remain stable." The battle was chaos. Zarathian ships streaked through the air, their weapons firing beams of pure energy that tore through the Vorathans' twisted vessels. On the ground, human and alien soldiers fought side by side, using Zarathian weapons to repel the invaders. Elias joined the fray, piloting a small fighter equipped with advanced shielding and plasma cannons. His movements were precise, guided by Althera's voice in his headset. "Two on your tail," she warned. "I see them," Elias replied, spinning his fighter to evade the pursuing ships. He fired a burst of plasma, destroying one and forcing the other to retreat. A desperate gamble. Despite their efforts, the Vorathans' numbers seemed endless. For every ship destroyed, two more took its place. The city's defenses were holding, but the strain on the luminal core was evident. Elias landed his fighter near the command tower, rushing to the control room. "We can't keep this up," he said to Althera. "The core won't last under this pressure." Althera's expression was grim. "Then we use it for what it was meant to do." Elias's eyes widened. "You mean, unleash its full power?" She nodded. "The core was designed as a weapon of last resort. It will release a wave of energy strong enough to destroy the Vorathans, but it will consume itself in the process." Elias hesitated. The core was the heart of their resistance, the key to rebuilding the Zorathian Empire. Without it, their victory would come at a great cost. "There has to be another way," he said. Althera placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch gentle but firm. "The core is a symbol, Elias. But symbols are only as powerful as the people who carry their legacy. If we do this, the galaxy will know that the Vorathans can be defeated." Elias took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. "Then let's do it." The core's sacrifice. As the Vorathans closed in, Althera and Elias activated the luminal core's final protocol. The chamber filled with blinding light as the core's energy built to a crescendo. Outside, the Vorathan forces hesitated, their twisted forms recoiling from the growing power. "Everyone, fall back!" Elias shouted over the comms. "Get to minimum safe distance." The core's energy wave erupted, a brilliant pulse that spread across the battlefield. The Vorathans were caught in its path, their ships disintegrating and their ground forces collapsing into ash. The light swept across the sands, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. A new dawn. When the light faded, the battlefield was eerily quiet. The Vorathans were gone, their forces annihilated by the core's final act. The city's defenders stood in stunned silence, their victory hard-won but undeniable. Elias and Althera emerged from the core's chamber, its once glowing structure now dark and lifeless. The cost of their victory was evident, but so was its significance. "We did it," Elias said, his voice heavy with emotion. Althera looked toward the horizon, where the first rays of dawn were breaking through the clouds. "This is not the end. It is a beginning." Elias nodded, his gaze steady. "Together, we'll rebuild. And if the Vorathans return, we'll be ready." As the sun rose over the restored city, the survivors began to rebuild not just the ruins of the Zorathian Empire, but the hope of a galaxy united against its greatest threat.